Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. On this channel, we talk about problems people face in their day-to-day life. Let's start with the video.
I, 35M, have a tense relationship with my parents that mostly stems from when I was in. Because when I was in high school, my parents sat and my sister Betty, 37F, that they had college funds for us, but with strings attached. In order to get our college fully paid for 4 years, we'd have to go to a state school, maintain a 3.0 GPA, allow them access to our grades each semester as proof of our GPA, to keep our nose clean, no getting in trouble with the law, and they'd have to approve of our majors, as they didn't work hard for years and save for us to blow it all away a fruitless career path. In addition, they would also give us a monthly allowance to use however we saw fit. At the time, my sister and I agreed to those terms, and our parents helped pick out our schools. My sister was always into STEM, so she had no problem picking out a major that suited their tastes. When it was my turn, I was on the fence, as none of the majors I knew my parents would approve of interest me in the long term. I was allowed to spend my first year as undeclared, so I could knock out my gen eds, but during the summer, my parents told me it was time to pick a major. I broke down and admitted that my passion wasn't in STEM, and begged them to allow me to do what I wanted. My parents responded with "these are the terms," and cut me off while my sister berated me for trying to scam mom and dad. Without my parents' support, I had to work 2 jobs while going to school part-time. It was rough, and I didn't actually get a job in my field of study that paid me enough to be my sole income. Until recently, but still felt proud of myself. I got married to my wife Rose, 32F, and we were trying to save for a house when the pandemic hit. After burning through a huge chunk of our savings, I asked my parents for a loan that I intended to pay back. My parents said that before they would even consider it, I would need to give copies of my and my wife's bills, paychecks, etc. This was so humiliating and hurtful because I've never had a history of not paying people back, nor have I ever asked my parents for money since college. Their response? These are the terms. I almost gave in when Rose discovered she was pregnant, but her own parents gave us the money we needed and I got my new job. We were so grateful that we let Rose's parents pick the middle name. Fast forward to now, my parents are meeting Leia in person for the first time, but understandably, Leia wasn't feeling them too much. Dad suggested that they come for Christmas, but Rose and I were already going to spend Christmas with her parents. My parents argued that Rose's parents already got Leia for her first Christmas, and that it was their turn. I told them that Rose and I get final say on holidays. My parents responded with how unfair it was, and I said, "These are the terms." After my parents left, Betty called me up and said that I was being a petty a-hole. Am I the a-hole? Edit to add. I had to step away for a bit, but I already wanted to say thank you for some of the comments as well as clear up a few things. When I entered college, it was my intention to do a STEM major, like my parents wanted. But during my second semester, when I started taking low-level STEM courses to get a feel for it, I wasn't happy and changed my mind. I hoped if I came to my parents in a mature manner, with a plan that they'd change their minds, but didn't. Yes, I was upset, but accepted it. You're right. If I had gone to a bank, they would have asked for the things my parents did. But I didn't go to a bank. I went to family. My family also said more than once in the same conversation that I set myself up for failure, and talked about how much better of a position my sister was in. Again, while this was my parents' first time meeting Leia in person, this wasn't their first time meeting her in general. Up until then, her interactions with them had been through video chats and phones. Leia is the first grandchild on both sides. My sister is child-free, and I'm starting to think one of the reasons why she's getting on my case about this is because she doesn't want our parents to look at her for grandchildren. Leia didn't outright cry or fuss when she met my parents and was never scared of them. She was calm, and after a while she wanted to do her own thing, While with Rose's parents, she's happy, comfortable, and will play with them. Rose's parents offered us the money before they found out that we were expecting. Not the a-hole. Between the lines of financial support, I can get a sense of there being a lack of emotional support and acceptance for who you are and a disrespect for your ability as an adult. Having a relationship with a grandkid is a privilege, not a right. And it is a privilege contingent on a strong relationship with a baby's parents. It's not about taking turns, it's about sharing values and trust. I can tell you still hurt from the inequality, which may have been their legal right, but doesn't morally sit well, and you likely don't feel that level of intimacy and trust. You have the right to set the terms of this relationship, its consequences, not retaliation. Wanting to save your child from love with stipulations is a healthy boundary to set. You are the parent and clearly have not relied on them for any financial help. You might have asked, but never took them up on it. They have chosen to live their life and ask you to meet their terms, and these are the consequences of those terms. Not the a-hole. Even though it felt good to say it, stand your ground, protect her from that behavior. Not the a-hole. You already had plans. They asked and you politely declined. You didn't get offended until they got all pissed about you, very understandably rejecting. They're being entitled. Please don't expose your kid to toxic people. With that said, you and your wife are the ones who decide when they get to be around your kid. Also, your sister just sounds like a yes man to your parents. I would just ignore what she says. Here's the next story. I, 37F, am a dual U.S. European national. My legally married, this is important here, husband, 37M, is South American. We have been married for 2.5 years. We live together in Paris. We have only lived together for 3 months because of the travel restrictions immediately following our wedding. I was living in the States at the time, and all visas, including family reunification visas, were not being issued. We ultimately decided to go to France because it was easier to get him a visa so we could live together. On the other side of the Atlantic, on the west coast of the US, one of my childhood best friends, 37M, is getting married to his partner, 33F. We are delighted for them, and I was excited when he asked me to be in the bridal party. Today, casually on the phone, I mentioned that we had started the process to get husband a visitor's visa for the wedding in September, and that I was hopeful this would happen. Well, this is when a friend informed me that they are limiting +1s to serious relationships, and since husband and I have not lived together for 1 year, we do not meet their criteria. I am shocked. We endured a long-distance marriage for over 2 years. We have dealt with immigration officials in 3 countries. We are married. We are definitely serious. The idea that he can't come with me to this wedding, not because of an immigration hurdle, but because our relationship is not serious enough, is hurtful and insulting. I told my friend this, and told him I cannot come unless husband is invited. My friend says I am being the a-hole because his future wife is paying for the wedding, and so I should accept her definition of a serious relationship. He also said that I might be confused by cultural differences, but in every culture I know, marriage is considered a serious relationship. So what do you think? Am I the a-hole or am I missing something here? Edit to add. I don't think this is about an issue between my husband and my friend. They seem to like each other and have been mountain climbing alone, without me, together. Not the a-hole. I think we're all missing something here. Why wouldn't your relationship qualify as serious to her? Just because you guys haven't lived together for a year? What if he was military and on deployment? Would that count under their definition? Did they give you a reason outside of cultural differences? Regardless, you and your significant other are, for all intents and purposes, married. I feel like they have gotten in over their heads with the budget and are trying to trim the fat. I don't know, but I wouldn't go to this wedding. The disrespect to your relationship is infuriating. Not the a-hole. It sounds like they just don't like your husband, or they're just being cheapskates or something. I don't understand how being married isn't a serious relationship, but living together for a year is? What if those people aren't even dating and they're just F buddies or something? That makes no sense at all. And it's such a flawed scale of measuring a serious relationship. Why isn't your friend willing to defend your relationship status? And why is he gaslighting you because you don't live in the country? Not the a-hole. You're right. Marriage is considered committed, unless there is evidence to the contrary. What would they do if a guest has a military spouse that was training away from home or deployed for over a year? Deny them too? Your friend is being the a-hole by not wanting to rock the boat with his fiancé, or he has some issues with your husband that he is reluctant to admit and is using the +1 rule as an excuse. Are you able to talk to his partner directly about this? Here's the next story. My 17M dad passed away last year. He and my mom, 55F, had business together in the textile industry that consisted of constant delivery and pickup. Before my dad passed away last year, he was in charge of almost everything: accounting, purchases, payments, deliveries, pickups, etc., etc. My mom is a legal owner, but a part of working some days, she never did much. She was never a stay-at-home mom, but she wasn't a big worker too. My dad used to do almost everything, and now that he's gone, everything had fallen into my brothers, 30M, 26M, 22M, and I. She was never an easygoing mom, but now things are just effed up. She expects us to do a ton of the work my dad used to do. She doesn't do anything regarding to accounting, and it doesn't matter how much my brother explained things to her. She refuses to learn. She doesn't know how to manage purchases, payments, clients, but every time we try to help her, she accuses us of calling her stupid when that's not our intention. Truth be told, she's not a businesswoman. Since my brothers have a lot on their back, I'm the one doing deliveries and pickups all the time because she doesn't drive. She also doesn't trust me with my dad's car, so I have to drive them in Uber or bicycle. I've had a part-time job for 2 years now, and I refuse to quit because I know that my mom won't pay me, and I like to have cash for my things. Plus, if we fall behind on some bills, I can help with my income. But now that I'm preparing for college, it has become too much. My older brother and I talked back in November, and he told me that he'll manage my college fund and pay for the rest because ever since my dad died, my mom has stopped to put money in it. The only thing he asked was to keep helping them this year, so I had to quit my other job. A month ago, I told my mom that she had to start looking for my replacement because I'll most likely move. She went mad, of course, but there wasn't much she could do. Since I'm jobless, she started to go harder on me. More work around the house, more deliveries and pickups, and I started to feel drowned. One of my brothers stepped in and started to do them with me. Yesterday, one of my friends had a small birthday party, and I went there because we only had one delivery, and it was my brother's turn. So I was there from 2 p.m. to 11 p.m. When I came home, my mom was waiting for me, and she told me that we had a pickup at 5, and since my brother was busy, she missed it because no one else could do it. She said that it was my fault, and that from now on I couldn't go outside because it was my duty. I had enough, and I yelled that I wasn't her employee and to leave me alone. I ran to my room and called my older brother. He came this morning and basically told my mom that she had to step in and do the deliveries herself because I had other things going on. But my mom is hella mad at me, and my brother told me to cut her some slack because this is hard on all of us. Not the a-hole. First of all, your mother is an adult and the owner. If she is not going to put in the work and run the business, then she should make the 4 of you equal owners and get out of it. She could receive some type of monthly allowance from the business. She could also hire a manager to run the business and step back. Second, before your dad did everything and now there are 4 adults taking over the work of 1 adult, yet she was in charge of finding someone to do the deliveries and she did not even do that. Are you and your brothers even getting paid for anything? Third, you should stop doing the deliveries altogether or ask your brothers to find a replacement. It is not your duty to do deliveries for free. You're a minor. I think you have already been cutting her some slack. It seems this is not about money, but about the fact that she is so lazy, she is not even trying to hire someone to do the deliveries. Next story. My wife is homophobic. So was I. We've both been working on it, but her upbringing was harsher than mine, so she's progressing at a slower rate. My daughter is marrying a woman, and my wife isn't going to the wedding. I'm going to the wedding, but I don't like the way they've been talking about my wife at the rehearsal. It always starts with my daughter's girlfriend. She'll say something out loud like, "Oh, I know who we're not letting around our children." Someone will ask, "Who are you talking about?" She'll point at me and say, "His wife is so homophobic, she can't even come to her own daughter's wedding." And then she'll say to me, "You're a good guy. I don't know how you put up with her." And I'll say, "Because I was there a few months ago, so I know what she's going through, and I see the work that she's been putting in." The girlfriend will pat my hand and say, "You don't have to make excuses for her." I talked to my daughter about this, and she just shrugged and said, "Well, I guess mom should have been here." I called my wife and told her what they were saying, and that I'm coming home, but she said that someone needed to be at our daughter's wedding, and to just let them say whatever they wanted about her. Today they were drinking, as we did the dinner table rehearsal, of how everyone would walk in and where we would sit. The guy decided to give a toast and say, "I can't effing stand religious, homophobic bigots. Why can't people just love who they love? I just want to give a toast to my future wife's husband for overcoming that, and being patient enough to stay with his bee of a wife." That was too much for me. Everyone was cheering, and I got up and walked away from the table. My daughter caught up to me and asked where I was going. I told her I'm going to my hotel room to pack. She begged me to come back inside, and I eventually relented and said I wouldn't go home, but that I'm going back to the hotel room and that she should talk to her girlfriend because if it happens again, I'm going home. My daughter got angry and tried to defend her girlfriend by saying that she was really hurt and embarrassed by my wife not showing up. I said, "Just like you got mad right now and tried to defend your wife, how do you think I feel listening to these strangers call my wife and your mother a bee? I'm going back to my hotel room, and if I hear any more talk like this, I'm leaving." She said, "If you leave for home, don't come back," and went back inside. I went to the hotel room, and I was getting ready to go home, but my wife called because our daughter had texted her that I had ruined the rehearsal, and I was about to not show up for the wedding, and convinced me to stay. I'm giving it one more chance. There's one more rehearsal tonight, and the wedding's tomorrow. Am I the a-hole for ruining the rehearsal by walking out like that? Would I be the a-hole if they said something crazy tonight and I leave and not show up for the wedding? I think you mean fiancé, not girlfriend. Imagine knowing your mom not only refuses to come to your wedding, but says something as cold as, "Someone needs to be at our daughter's wedding," like you'd say, "Someone needs to pick up the dry cleaning." You're the a-hole, and so is your wife. You seem to disrespect the woman your daughter is marrying, and I'm wondering why you're even attending. If you're gonna ruin your daughter's wedding by acting childish, maybe it's better if you do go home.